Hey guys, so by now you should have gone over the warm-up. I'm sorry I can't be with you today. I'm at a very exciting math county meeting, but I'll be back later this afternoon. Last class, we did solving trig equations, but we only did it when x was in the numerator or the denominator. And when you did your warm-up, you should have noticed that last problem you couldn't solve because we didn't have a method yet for solving for the angle. You did it for the multiple choice problems because you could just plug in chug to figure out which answer was the best fit. But now I'm going to show you how to actually solve for them. So if you remember from last class, we had 4 steps for solving trig equations. The first thing that we do is we circle our angle. Then we label our sides OA and H. We use SOHCAHTOA to set up an equation. And then lastly, we solve for x, or whatever our unknown is. So let's do number 1. I'm going to circle my angle. I'm going to label my sides O, A, and H. Remember, the hypotenuse is across from the 90-degree angle. The opposite side is opposite the angle we circled, and adjacent means next to. So notice my A matches with a 44. My H partners up with that 49. There's nothing printed on the O, so we don't really need that. A and H goes with C for cosine, so CAH, cosine is A over H. So let's write our equation. Cosine of my unknown, because my angle is what we don't know, equals A over H. Okay, so cosine of x equals A over H. Well, here's the problem. This x is stuck inside of cosine, so we need a way to undo cosine. Well, growing up, when you learned addition, you learned subtraction so you could undo addition. You learned division so you could undo multiplication. Those are called inverse operations, just like squaring and square rooting are inverse operations. They undo each other. Well, we have an inverse operation for cosine, and it's literally just called cosine inverse, and it looks like this. That's cosine inverse, cosine with a little -1. So if I take cosine inverse of cosine, it's going to undo it. But if I do cosine inverse, just like anything, to one side of my equation, I have to do it to the other side. So go ahead, if you need to pause and make sure you have it all written down, you can. But cosine inverse of cosine undoes each other. They're inverse operations, so I can literally cross those out, just like when we do each other. So all that's left is that x. On this side of the equation, I have cosine inverse of 44 over 49. Well, fortunately, this is really easy to plug into our calculator. So here's my calculator. Remember, make sure your calculator's in degrees and make sure it's in function. Okay, so here we go. Cosine inverse. Well, notice right above the cosine button, there's a little cosine -1. Well, to get that yellow, I push the yellow button. So second, cosine, and there's my cosine inverse, my cosine. Just like before, I have parentheses. Something needs to go inside that function, and it's 44 over 49. And when I push enter, I get 26.109 when you round up. That is the angle, and it makes sense as an answer because an angle needs to be between 0 and 90 degrees to be one of these two angles in the right triangle. Let's do it again. Here's my angle. Here's my O. Here's my A. Here's my H. O has a partner. A has a partner. That gives me tangent. So I have tangent of my unknown angle equals O over A. Well, to undo tangent, we use tangent inverse. So I'm doing inverse to tangent. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. Tangent and tangent inverse are inverse operations. They undo each other. So now I have x equals tan inverse of 9 over 30. Now I take my calculator back out. I do second tangent to get tangent inverse. 9 over 30. And that gives me x equals 16.699 degrees. Okay, let's keep going. Here's my angle. Here's my O. Here's my H. O and H is sine. So sine of my angle is O over H. To get that x out, I have to undo sine. So I'm going to do sine inverse of both sides. second sine. 18 over 29. Okay, that 366 is going to round up because that's 5, so it's going to become a 7. Okay, let's do one more together. Here's O, here's H, so again I have sine of my unknown is 29 over 58. Now, hopefully by now you've noticed, whenever sine ends up kind of switching sides, that's when the inverse happens. So I can do sine inverse to both sides, but we know the sine inverse here is just going to undo the sine. So if you want to, you can just put x. If I do sine inverse to this side, I have to do it to this side. When I do sine inverse to both sides, essentially the sine switches sides, but I get the inverse instead. So now I'm going to type that into my calculator. And I get x equals exactly 30 degrees. Okay, so we just did these 4 together. If you're a little confused, I would rewatch this video really fast. But you'll notice at the bottom you have 8 new problems. These are going to combine all 3 cases. So remember, when we have x on the top of my fraction, I multiply both sides to get x by itself. When x is in the bottom, I use my switcheroo to switch the x with the sine, cosine, tangent of a number. So x is on the side by itself, and then like sine of 38 or whatever goes in the numerator, sorry, the denominator and the fraction. And then we have when x is the angle, that's the case we just learned right now, that's when you use the converse. Oh, that's wrong, sorry, the inverse. Goodness gracious. That's when you use the inverse operation. Okay, so that should give you what you need. Go ahead and see if you can do these 8 problems. There's going to be a key on Blackboard. Check it yourself, but ask your table if you need help.